Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here. So yes, Aquaman versus Rotten Tomatoes versus the critics. Now, waiting for what angle Grace Randolph is going to talk about the DCEU in is like a ticking time bomb. So she always claims she's a DCEU fan. She always claims she's a DC fan. But ultimately, her channel is her main priority, and she will find a way, a negative way, to bring in the people who don't like the DCEU. So we've seen Aquaman reach 600 million globally. This is fantastic, but they have tried every negative narrative to bring this film down. Early last week it was that Aquaman had the lowest opening in DCEU history, not mentioning that we had Mary Poppins Returns, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Bumblebee out at the same time. Now, mostly when a DCEU movie's been released, it hasn't had any competition, right? They forget to mention that. But anyway, moving away from that, I'm sure you've all noticed Grace Randolph's latest Aquaman video. Now, what she starts on and says, the good news is the box office is really good. But when you look at Rotten Tomatoes, which is how they say tomatoes, right? It's 65%. So she started going down this angle where this is very serious. But then she's clever. She goes, I bet you're going to comment down below and say, yeah, but Grace, why does it matter? Then she makes the biggest blunder she's ever done. She starts saying that prominent actors who are offered roles will look at Rotten Tomato critic scores and they'll turn the DCEU down because of their low Rotten Tomato and critic scores, right? She then starts comparing all the DCEU actors and James Wan's previous Rotten Tomatoes ratings, right? And I think this is below the belt. This really is below the belt. So she starts talking about Jason Momoa not being, a great actor and looking at other people who have worked within the DCEU not being great. She forgets to mention Amy Adams, one of the best actresses of this generation. She forgets to mention Jesse Eisenberg, one of the great independent film actors. Great coup getting him. He even still wants to come back if they'll let him. That says everything about the man, even though people have slaughtered his performance, which I thought was fabulous, right? He's actually turned around and said, I want to do what the fans want me to do, and I'm quite happy to change my performance. What a wonderful young man that is. How many actors in the MCU would you get that from? No, you'd just be talking about toxic fan masculinity, wouldn't you, or some nonsense like that. But she forgets to mention that in Iron Man 2, an ex-wrestler is the villain, the crappiest villain in MCU history. She forgets that. And this is the problem, right? She's talking about Jason Momoa, Amber Heard, being low-tier performers, right? It's absolutely outrageous when you look at the great Michael Shannon, another great actor. Oh, then she talks about Mark Strong being a working actor, which is basically a put-down saying he's not a big name. And talking about people still remembering him from Green Lantern. So what do you remember of Mark Strong in Green Lantern, Grace? A fantastic performance. Because whatever you think about Green Lantern as a film, Mark Strong's performance was outstanding. Even the critics liked what Mark did. So please don't start talking to me about Mark Strong being a working actor. But these are the depths of depravity these people will reach to. They're like children who are not getting their own way. They are so angry that a DCEU film with moderate reviews, neither extremely positive or extremely negative, is doing so well in the box office. They are scared because they do not have the influence over the consumer they used to. They're grading down films like Venom, and people are going to watch it. They're coming out saying, wow, the best thing about Rotten Tomatoes is that there is a segment of an audience score. That is brilliant. And it's always, when you notice a low critical Rotten Tomatoes score, the audience one is always higher. That says everything. Doctor Who Season 11 is a great example. Nearly 100% critical rating, but when you look at the audience score, I think it's under 30 now, which is amazing. But of course, these people will always have an excuse. Oh, it's Russian bots, it's this. They're so disgusting and they're so despicable. They actually think what they think means more than you. 80% of these people who review films have never worked in the industry before. I work in the industry. I know this industry. And what they say about films and what they judge about films is irrelevant to what you, the average moviegoer, and me look for when we go for a film. They talk about VFX, they talk about angles, they talk about lighting. The average moviegoer doesn't give a shit about lighting. Now, I know the average YouTuber does care about lighting, right? Maybe the average person in comments cares about lighting. But the thing is, the internet isn't the average moviegoer. The average moviegoer who's going to watch Aquaman doesn't come onto YouTube, doesn't comment on YouTube videos. That's the truth. And this is the undeniable truth they don't like. So you've got her basically saying that it's a terrible disaster that Aquaman's got 64% critical rating on Rotten Tomatoes. But it doesn't matter. It is irrelevant, right? Hang on, Joaquin Phoenix. I know the Joker movie isn't part of the DCEU, but it's a DCE film. It's a DC film, isn't it? So if DC films were looked down on so much because of the DCEU, why would Joaquin Phoenix, a critically acclaimed actor, by the way, come and play the Joker? Yes, of course it helps a director like Todd Phillips is involved. I get it. But still, her argument doesn't hold water that the current people working on the DCEU are working actors, and basically the really prominent actors won't want to come here. Maybe more of the high-stakes actors are going to the MCU because of the amount of attention and money it's generating. That's fair enough, but don't tell me that prominent actors don't want to work within the DCEU. Russell Crowe is itching to come back to the DCEU. He loved working with Zack Snyder. He was so impressed with the different, unique way he worked. He never even thought it was possible to make a film like Man of Steel the way Zack made it, and for it to work and for it to be successful. And believe it or not, despite what the internet says, despite what Rotten Tomatoes says, Man of Steel is a great, successful film. Is it the most successful film of all time? No, but it's a great film. It works for so many people. So there. But she had to find an angle, and she found it. It is an irrelevant angle. It doesn't work because these people, as I keep on saying, are so angry that the consumer is taking no notice of them. They're angry that Warner Brothers released Aquaman internationally before they did in the United States. They're angry because it's all going against them now, where they go high grade on Disney and the MCU and low grade on Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers internationally had a fantastic box office year, but they keep on talking about domestic because then they can talk about Disney leading everyone. Warner Brothers was the second studio in box office terms for 2018, as it has been in the past 3 years. I think it slipped slightly down from 2016, but internationally, this is what they won't talk about because internationally is more important than global, because internationally is about all your box office take. But they keep on going domestic, not only because they're arrogant Americans who think America only matters. They're basically Donald Trump, aren't they? America first kind of thing. But ultimately, it's Warner Brothers, which is the box office leader globally. It's Warner Brothers who made the best films when you look at the other films. I mean, Disney didn't even make the best films of 2018. Black Panther's an all right film. It's not the best film of 2018. Incredibles 2 is okay. It's not the best film of 2018. Avengers Infinity War is a really, really epic movie. It's not the best film of 2018. There's some wonderful films that have come from Universal and Warner Brothers this year. But the movie media, the Disney shills, just want to talk about domestic box office because that's the only way they can prop Disney up. So what is Grace Randolph's kind of motivation in doing a video like this? Well, she's doing it as a YouTuber. I don't know if she loves DC, hates DC, is truly a DCEU fan. Only Grace can answer that. But doing a video in these terms, it's a sour grapes video. It's to say, yeah, well, Aquaman's doing well financially, but look at Rotten Tomatoes. It doesn't matter, Grace. It doesn't. You say it does, but it doesn't, because all that matters is that the public are happy. Are the public happy with Aquaman? Yes. 9 out of 10 of the public are happy. But what's even making them more angry, that more women are going to see Aquaman rather than Bumblebee, a female-led film, rather than Mary Poppins Returns, a female-led film. It is so hilarious and so funny because these people's narrative is flying and crashing. And I'm loving it. Every time I get more news about Aquaman and how much it's making, it makes me laugh. The DCEU have won, Aquaman has won, and these poor babies can't handle it.